Hello y'all and welcome back. In this video I'm going to discuss the question, what is ethics? So ethics, simply put, is the systematic study of moral right and wrong. And I say moral right and wrong instead of just right and wrong because of course there are many different kinds of right and wrong. I mean, you can be right or wrong about like state capitals or NBA champions by year. There are also right and wrong ways to do things, right? Like to train a horse or drive a manual transmission or load a deep fryer or whatever. So moral right and wrong is right and wrong specifically in the area of human morality. And ethics as a discipline asks three primary questions. So first, it asks the question of which individual actions are morally right, morally wrong, and a very important third category, morally permissible, right? So we talk about a morally right action. It's, pretty clear, like helping somebody in need, right? Or maybe, being loyal or faithful, telling the truth, right? These are morally right things. Conversely, being cruel, cheating on your partner, these are morally wrong things. But there's a very important third category, right? This category of moral permissibility, right? So this would be something where doing it doesn't make you morally bad. It's not a morally bad thing to do, but it also isn't like a morally right thing to do. Lots of examples here, but you might take the example of divorce. Many people, myself included, have had to go through divorce. Obviously very difficult and painful, right? But you can ask the question morally here, right? Is divorce morally permissible? Now, some people historically or today, right, have said it's not, right? Meaning that if you do that, you're doing something morally wrong, so it's morally impermissible. Others would say, no, it is morally permissible. Nobody, I should think, thinks that it's morally right in the sense of morally obligatory. They might, in many cases, think it's the best thing to do. But in that case, morally, it would just be permissible, but it wouldn't be right on a par with like helping somebody in need, right, or saving a life or something like that. Another more controversial one, I suppose, would be abortion, right? We have this question, is abortion morally permissible? Again, people that say that it is not hold that it would be morally wrong. So morally impermissible is the same as morally wrong, right? But the people that hold that it is morally permissible aren't holding that it's actually morally right, on a par, again, with saving a life, but just that it's permissible, that if you do it, you're not morally worse as a person in any way. I realize these are fairly controversial examples, but questions of moral permissibility kind of get into that territory pretty quickly. Anyway, at this level, we take an individual action and we say, is it morally permissible? Is it right, wrong? This sort of thing. So the question I'm going to ask you in the discussion here, one of several questions I asked for the EDQ for this module, is the question, if you're in a committed relationship, is it okay to be in touch with your exes? Right? So we'll discuss that. Is that right, wrong, or morally permissible? The second kind of question that ethics asks is, how do we understand right and wrong? Meaning, how do we understand these concepts? And this has kind of two sub-questions, right? What fundamentally are these concepts and where do they come from? So, for instance, some people say that right and wrong come from God, right? That God handed these down via some commandments or some other mandate. Others say that they are completely invented by society. People just made these up. They're borderline arbitrary. They depend on culture. Others say that they evolved, right? They come to us from evolution. So certain behaviors long ago in our development maximized the fitness of the social group, so came to be christened good or bad. Others say that it's a question that right and wrong, moral right and wrong, are a question of the maximization of benefit. Others say that it's a question of following rules. Others say that it's a question of adherence to or following a particular kind of very morally praiseworthy person. Lots of different theories here, but the idea is, when you get right down to the bottom of it, what fundamentally are these concepts? That's the second kind of question that ethics asks. The third kind of question has to do with being a good person. In particular, what is a good person and how do you become a good person? So this question is less theoretical and more practical, I think, in that it touches your life and the way that your life and character and everything is shaped directly. But it's also in many ways the truest and most original ethical question for a couple of reasons. First, it is the question, the only ethical question, asked by the inventor of ethics, a guy named Socrates, who we will look at extensively in the next module. This is the only question he cares about, is how do you become a good person, right? But a second reason is that the inventor of the word ethics, who curiously enough is not the inventor of the discipline ethics, the person that invents the word comes later, right? But the inventor of the word ethics, Aristotle, uses this word to describe the study of becoming a good person, right? So Aristotle is writing in the kind of mid 300s BC. So for those of you that are familiar with like biblical history. This would be right between the Old and New Testaments in the intertestamental period, right after the prophet Malachi here. So he's writing here, and he's writing a book, or he writes a book called the Nicomachean Ethics. It's called Nicomachean because it's named after his son, Nicomachus. But he calls it ethics, and he invents this word ethike, Greek word ethike, where we get ethics, because he says, I'm systematically studying ethos. Now, ethos comes to us untranslated into English, and it means character. Ordinarily, it means the character of like a group of people or a time and place, right? The ethos of Victorian England or something like that. But it can also just as easily mean the character of a person, a human being, right? And it's worth doing more with this idea of human character because it's going to be absolutely vital and central to everything we do going forward. So once again, ethics, systematic study of moral character, and it studies these three things, right? Individual actions, are they right, wrong, or morally permissible? Okay, what fundamentally are right and wrong as concepts? And third, what is a good person and how do you become one? So we'll look a little bit more at this idea of character in the next video. Thanks.